floor, and you can share your screen when ready, and we'll go from there.
Perfect.
Thank you. Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the final AMP ALS PWLE Forum of 2024. We are delighted to welcome back Dr. Bob Bowser, who is one of the principal investigators of the Access for All in ALS Clinical Research Consortium. When we last convened back in June of this year, Dr. Bowser was joined by Dr. Berry and Dr. Andrews as well, and they gave us sort of an in-depth look at how the study had evolved up to that point, focusing on updates to the research protocols, patient recruitment efforts, and outreach strategies for the study. If you were unable to join us for that call, I will put the link to the recording in the chat momentarily. So today, Dr. Bowser will be presenting an update on the progress of all ALS. Before we begin, I would like to remind everyone that this webinar is again being recorded, and we will make it available for viewing in the coming days, hopefully days, maybe weeks. But we encourage you to submit any questions that you may have in the Q&A function, and we will try to address as many of those as we can during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Without further ado, I'll hand it over to Dr. Bowser. And Dr. Bowser, thank you once again for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Ilya. Thanks a lot for having me here. See a lot of familiar names in the attendee list. This is fantastic. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So today, as Ilya mentioned, I'm going to give you updates of the study, the All ALS study. And again, this is being sort of co-directed by both myself and James Berry. So not a whole lot of background, really study updates around some year one milestones. So working with NIH, we have milestones that we need to achieve on an annual basis. And so I'll review some of those milestones and our achievements to reach those milestones. I'll mention even some year two milestones. So we're just starting year two now. Talk about site activations, current enrollment numbers, where we're at with vendors, and getting them up and running, and some of the hires that are occurring at the coordinating center to help facilitate our activities. So again, very brief little background. So all ALS, there's 2 coordinating centers, the West Coordinating Center located at the Barrow Neurological Institute, and I'm the contact PI at that center, and the East Coordinating Center at Mass General, and James Berry is the contact PI there. We have a wonderful group of other PIs that are working with us at both coordinating centers, and a fantastic project management team that really facilitates all our efforts. We have 35 clinical sites that were identified early on in year 1, and those are listed here across the country. You can see some states lack clinical sites, and you also see that some are blue and some are orange, and that just represents which coordinating center those sites are working with. So again, we have 35 clinical sites. Now, the patient cohorts and collections, what are we doing? Well, we're enrolling symptomatic ALS patients, and obviously they can be seen at any one of those 35 sites once everyone is activated, or can be fully remote. So it can be located anywhere in the country. So the goal is to really facilitate both a large number of ALS patients throughout the country that are participating in research, and offering the opportunity for those that traditionally haven't been able to participate in research, especially those in rural settings, or very distal from some of the larger clinical sites, having those patients participate. Healthy controls, these are just for on-site visits. And then, so those 2 groups fall within a study protocol that we call ASSESS. And then the 3rd group listed there, asymptomatic individuals that harbor ALS gene variants, are enrolled in a study called PREVENT. And those in the PREVENT study, it's a hybrid approach. So there's annual on-site visits, but then there's additional completely remote visits throughout the year. Through these efforts, we're collecting longitudinal biofluids linked to detailed clinical information, and the fluids will include whole blood, plasma serum, and is optional cerebrospinal fluid collection. We're also collecting longitudinal speech recordings on a monthly basis, and also a number of digital assessments that, again, are performed completely remotely at home. So our year 1 milestones, and so again, we started in late August, almost September of last year of 23, and this was our list of milestones. And really, we had to come up with the protocol, submit the protocol to get IRB approval, and it was with a central IRB. And then from there, we're trying to execute contracts with all the sites, then trying to get the central approved protocols and informed consents that can now be actually agreed upon and approved at each of the individual 35 sites as well. Master service contracts, again, with all the sites. Wanted to have an investigator meeting in May of last year, and so we did do that in May, and it was a fantastic meeting, and so that was a really helpful and fruitful meeting. And then trying to get, again, our sites to get the approvals of the IRB. We are hoping to begin that by June, and we did meet that milestone, as you can see, achieved in June of 24. Initiating site activations, hopefully about a month or so after that. And again, it was late July. It typically takes a couple of months almost to start to get a site activated once it's been IRB approved. There's a lot of training involved for all the site personnel. The EDC, the electronic data capture system, getting it ready to actually collect data. So that's a lot of work by the data group, and that's going through Neurobank. And again, we had hoped to have that done by August of 24, and it was done for the PREVENT program in July of 24, and for the ASSESS protocol in August of this year. And then the critical thing was trying to get first visit to happen within that first year. And so again, the goal was by July of 24, and it happened right at the end of July, the last day of July of 24. We did accomplish that and achieve that goal. And then we had to try to get additional sites activated, try to get 8 sites activated by September of this year. And we did achieve that by September. And then trying to get 20 patients enrolled by September. And again, we did achieve that by September. So we have achieved all the year 1 milestones to date. And then for the last few months, we've been working with NIH on what would year 2 milestones look like. So first, before we get into that, a little bit more about site activation. So I mentioned we had 10 sites activated. We currently we're up to 16 sites that have central IRB approval. And I'm sorry, we had 8 sites activated, and then we have 10 sites activated as of this past week. And again, once sites get a central IRB, the site IRB approved, that is the central IRB approved at their site, it again takes typically around 4 to 6 weeks for all the training to occur in order for that site to actually get activated such that he can actually start to enroll individuals into the programs. And so again, right now we have 16 sites that have IRB approval. So we have 45% of all of our sites now that have that central IRB approval, and 29% or 10 sites that are now fully activated. And so listed there on the right are the sites that are active currently. And so you can see, not surprisingly, Mass General and Ibarra were the first 2 that were activated. But you can see a number of sites located in different areas across the country. And so we're very excited about that. We have a number of sites that are getting close to central IRB approval. And so hopefully we'll be able to activate some additional sites in the near term. And as of last Friday, we have 52 participants enrolled in all ALS. So we're very excited about that. And the breakdown is listed here. Within the ASSESS program, there are 15 symptomatic individuals on site. The offsite has not been implemented yet, and that's really due to getting all the systems up and running. So we're hoping to have that done within the next month. And that's a big goal for us, because obviously if we can enroll individuals fully remote, we think we can dramatically increase the number of participants enrolling. And we have 4 control individuals that are enrolled. And again, these are on-site participants. Within the PREVENT protocol, we have 33 individuals that are enrolled within the PREVENT protocol. We have a genetic testing sub-study, and that, again, has not been implemented yet, really because we're final little kinks out of the system for the NeuroPro system, which is really important both for collecting information, both at fully remote collection visits, and also the genetic testing. And e-consenting is also being implemented now. And so we're really anticipating rolling this out hopefully within the next week or 2. So we're hoping to do this by mid-October. We do have an email that anyone can communicate or interact with us, and the email is listed there, allals-info@dignityhealth.org. And so we have somebody that's manning that email, and so anyone can still contact us through that email to get more information or to let us know that they're interested in participating. Again, back to activation and enrollment. See sort of at the bottom, September of 24, we, again, 10 sites activated as of last week. So we're a little bit above our planned schedule of activities. That orange bar, as it's going up and up and up, that's when we're anticipating more and more sites to be active in enrolling individuals. So again, by early of 25, we hope to be up to at least 30 individuals or 30 sites that are actively enrolling. And on the right side, now looking at enrollment, we have 52 participants enrolled as of last Friday. Again, it's slightly above our targeted number for this point in time. But as you see, it is almost an exponential curve going up with potential or with the expected number of participants enrolled. And so as to hit these very large numbers, obviously we'll need both a large number of sites that are active and enrolling, and also the ability to do fully remote participants and visits. So with our study vendors, we have a number of different vendors. Some we've worked with in the past and some that are somewhat new to the ALS space. And so it's been a little work just both getting them all, getting all the, both the contracts initiated and signed off and executed, and then all the documentation and all the systems up and running for our All ALS program. So Linus Health is doing speech assessments, and so that now is implemented and ready to go for both assess and prevent. Florence is doing e-consent, a number of modules, all completely remote. It's being implemented across all sites, and site coordinators are being trained on the use of e-consenting. So right now it's being launched out in sort of a staggered rollout as we're getting all the coordinators to be trained on using e-consent. But again, first e-consent was performed in September. BioSend is the central lab. So, and this is through the biorepository for NIH. And so again, this has been implemented. We have everything up and ready to go for both the assess and prevent programs. And again, just working towards getting regular standardized reports from BioSend so that we can provide information in a very timely manner, both to NIH on our success and also out to the public, and let the public know the active number of participants enrolled, et cetera. We're creating a website with a company called Dojo. We have a first sort of iteration that's somewhat complete. We've got the centralized IRB approval to use the website, and we're trying to launch it at the end of the month. So we're hopeful to at least get out the initial iteration of the website by the end of this month. A company called PCM is doing home phlebotomy, and we're currently in sort of an implementation phase for that. They're training mobile nurses around the country with our protocol and methodologies, focusing really on in areas and states and areas around where our sites are currently active. And so again, that's sort of the tranching it out across the country, first starting around areas where sites are active, and then again, tranching it out throughout the country. And this really is being anticipated to start in the upcoming few weeks. So in November, we're hoping to be able to do this now and really be able to facilitate enrollment of fully remote individuals. And then Neurobank, which is also generating the NeuroPro database as well. That's been launched for both assess and prevent. And again, this is how we're collecting and storing the clinical information that ultimately gets put into the downstream portal with SAGE. So now our year 2 milestones. And so this is a lot of work with NIH in defining what we hope to accomplish in this fiscal year, so our year 2. We're going to be initiating quarterly ALS webinars, somewhat similar to what we're doing right now with the initial webinar by the end of the year. So again, it's planned for December of this year. The website, again, we hope to have that initially launched at the end of the month. Again, we're working within our committee that's creating the website with Dojo, and we also have 2 different patients with lived experience that are participating in that generation of the website. We have to get 21 sites with central IRB approval by January, and then 21 sites fully activated, again, about 2 months later, so by March of 25. We hope to get even more than that, obviously, but we're going as quick as we can. Each of the coordinating centers are hiring patient navigators and outreach managers. I'll discuss that in a moment. But again, the planned activity was by March. I think we'll definitely achieve that in a more rapid manner. Develop a community engagement plan. Obviously, outreach manager is important for some of those activities, but again, trying to do that by March. By July, enrolling participants in at least 8 states that don't have a current clinical site. So again, it's back to the fully remote in areas that normally we haven't been able to interact with in ALS research studies. And so it doesn't define a number, but it's at least 8 states that currently don't have a clinical site. Our outreach coordinators and managers will be completing site visits at least 4 different site visits, and I'll mention that as well in a few moments. And again, that's by the end of the fiscal year, so September of 25. And then the big numbers. So by September of 25, we need to have at least 740 symptomatic participants enrolled, with at least 133 providing CSF. 120 asymptomatic participants enrolled, with at least 100 providing CSF, and 200 control participants enrolled, with at least 15 of those providing CSF, all by September of 25. So very lofty numbers for us to achieve within this current fiscal year. Our website development, first iteration, again, it was approved by the central IRB for both the prevent and access assess protocols. Again, launching by the end of the month, and working with the committee and working with a few patients with lived experience, trying to get what types of information would be best suited for the website, and how do we keep it up to date. So we want to have a study progress tracker, really listing number of participants, types of samples being collected, et cetera. A map of the country with active sites. So that will obviously be changing as we move forward, but listing those sites, contact information. Obviously, more information can be attained by that email address that I've already mentioned, but then also having on the website a participant interest intake form. And so this will be collected using a system called REDCap, so it's HIPAA compliant. And so potential participants will provide information and indicating their interest so that we can reach out back to them in order to help them enroll within the study, either at one of the clinical sites or completely remote. So some of the important accomplishments that we need to do in year 2, especially enrolling large numbers, requires a lot of outreach efforts, helping patients navigate the system, identifying individuals then that could be enrolled within various clinical sites or completely remote. As I mentioned, both of our coordinating centers are hiring patient navigators and outreach managers. The navigators are really an important liaison between potential participants, family members, and sites, and support the sort of triaging and assignment of participants to sites. So the patient navigator will be managing inquiries from the website and email, other modes of outreach, and we'll be assigning participants that maybe don't live near a clinical site. So maybe somebody that is in Idaho. And so again, a state with no current clinical site, but assigning participants to a coordinator at one of our 35 sites. Even if they're fully remote, we need a coordinator working with them to both go through the consenting and onboarding process, but also managing them with a sense of, we don't want attrition. We want people to remain actively engaged, enrolled, and providing information and clinical samples as they move forward throughout the program. And so we need somebody who's physically working with them on a one-on-one basis. The outreach managers, again, will be working one-on-one with different sites and really helping to develop recruitment and retention plans specific to the site population and the needs of that site. And so, these types of recruitment plans are, really have to be generated and sort of modified based on where the clinical site is. It can't be a one fit for all approach. And so the outreach managers will be working with different site PIs and coordinators to help develop recruitment plans that'll best suit their needs. They'll also be attending local events and working with advocacy groups, both locally and nationwide, to help spread awareness of the All ALS program. And finally, a few other updates within All ALS. We have a number of committees. We have a steering committee, an OSMB, observational study management group that is looking and making sure there aren't any adverse events that occur within our protocols, a data sharing and publications committee. These have been finalized and are already starting to meet. We'll be generating recruitment committees, retention committees that are being developed and looking for individuals that are interested in participating in those committees. We're developing our standard of operating procedures, our SOPs, all the protocol manuals that we need and other study documents. And those are really being finalized at this point in time. We're already going through protocol amendments. We got protocols approved quickly and move forward. And now there's always minor modifications that have to occur and even revisions to the informed consent form. And those are continually underway. Obviously, we want to make sure that the modifications hopefully don't require a reconsenting of everyone that's already involved in the program. So we have to be mindful of that and really think hard and long about what are the amendments that we wish to make to both the protocol and to the informed consent. We continue to collaborate and reach out to other groups, included our All FTD. And so we've been working a lot with the All FTD folks. And again, for our cognitive measures, we're incorporating a measure called ECAS, which is really important for those individuals that harbor C9 repeat expansion, as those individuals might go towards ALS or towards FTD. So it's really exciting to work together with the All FTD folks as we can gain much more information about why one person with a C9 mutation or a repeat expansion develops ALS and why does another, sometimes within the same family, develop FTD. Also working closely with other natural history studies that are ongoing, also with the CDC and Target ALS programs and their longitudinal efforts that are already underway. We're engaging with patients with lived experience and looking for feedback and input, both on the NeuroPro activities. So again, collecting information at home, how does that work on a tablet, cell phone, et cetera, and making that process and the both the messaging and the communication and the collection through that system work to the benefit of all and with the least burden to patients. Also with recruitment materials, again, getting the word out. How can we better get the word out about the program? And obviously with a lot of other community-facing materials and other organizations within the ALS spectrum that are currently interacting a lot with different patient groups. We now have both the assess and prevent studies are now posted on clinicaltrials.gov. And so that's another way in which individuals might identify or find these studies that they might be interested in enrolling in. And I believe that's all the updates at the moment. And I want to thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bowser, for that update. We do have some questions coming into the Q&A, so we'll just take them in order. I see some people have their hands raised as well. We will get to you as well. So let's see. First question here from Lynn is, can one enroll remote and then transfer to a site after they are fully signed up?
Yes. I mean, you would be able to do that, and you can do the reverse as well. So if you are enrolled in a site and then over time can no longer come to the site, then you can switch and become fully remote.
Thank you. All right, let's see a question here from Allison Bulat. Are you surprised that there are twice as many people currently enrolled in Prevent as in Assess, and why do you think that is?
Yeah, good question, Allison. The real reason is that Prevent was sort of rolling out first. So it was sort of beating the protocol that was getting activated quickly. And the sites that, the initial sites that were active were already heavily involved in the Prevent study. And so it was patients that were coming in a couple of weeks that were already coming in. They were being easily switched onto the all ALS protocol.
Thank you for that answer. Let's see here from Andrea. Nice to see enrollment growing without a marketing plan fully implemented yet. How are participants being recruited at their clinic visits?
Predominantly at the moment, yes. Though we've had a number of people reach out to us in various means. Since we don't have our fully remote program up and running yet, though, the only participants we can enroll through that program will really be those that can attend the sites. So in the next few weeks, we believe we'll have the fully remote activities all up and running, and so we can really start to enrolling through that program. And I think that will dramatically accelerate the number of participants that we can capture and get enrolled in all ALS.
Thank you. Question here from Phil Green. Is all ALS working with ALS TDI ARC, or would someone have to do both?
Yes, we are working with ALS TDI, and they've actually been very helpful in a few different aspects of our learning process about how to roll this out on nationwide efforts. And so, yes, we are actively communicating with ALS TDI.
Dr. Bowser. Question here from Lori Heller. I didn't see a vendor listed for the movements or accelerometers part of the program. How or who will be doing that?
Oh, well, the accelerometer program is hopefully an upcoming event for this current year. So that vendor for that has not been fully identified yet. So that's why it's not listed. So I didn't actually list all I think we have about 30 milestones for this year, Elio. NIH really came down on us. But so working towards bringing in other activities like accelerometers is very much an interest, other wearables, et cetera. So this is the year that we need to figure out what's best to bring into the all ALS program.
All right. Thank you. Another question here from Lori. Do you have a patient advisory committee working with you? And if not, do you think that could be beneficial?
I definitely think having patients on all our committees is very helpful. And that's definitely something that we've done. We don't have a separate patient advisory committee. I'll take that back with James, and we'll see if that is something else that we can do as well. So I think it's always beneficial. And every time that we ask questions of patients with lived experience around what we're trying to accomplish, there's, the advice we get is tremendous, and it's always beneficial to the program.
Thank you. Another question from Lynn. Are there timeline goals for the biomarkers and COA working groups?
I don't think there's specific timelines for this year that I'm aware of on the biomarkers and COA working groups. I know really with all ALS, our task is collecting the samples that will be analyzed for biomarkers. It's not so much defining what are the biomarkers that would be examined and the methodologies examined.
Thank you. See here, question from Joanne. If somebody is already enrolled in the all FTD study, do you recommend they also enroll in the all ALS study?
That's a great question. If it's somebody that's a C9 FTD patient, then staying in the FTD study makes sense. We're really been working with the all FTD folks around the asymptomatic gene carriers. And there, I think it can be beneficial to be almost in both. we've worked together with them, and there's commonalities, but there's still differences. So, for instance, one thing that the all-FTD study does that we don't do at the moment is imaging. And so the all-FTD folks have been fantastic in that they said, well, if you have a C9 asymptomatic individual enrolled in all ALS and they're at or near a site that's an all-FTD site doing imaging, we'd be happy to do that and have them co-enroll. So I think there are some definite benefits to co-enrolling in some of these studies because of that. Besides the commonality, there are some differences. We're working or need to work more closely with the all-FTD folks, though, to make sure we can identify those that might be in both.
Thanks, Dr. Bowser. And I just want to briefly jump back to the biomarkers and COA working group question. We have Dr. Amelie Gubitz, who is one of the program directors here on the call, and I can just give her the floor momentarily, and she can comment on that question as well. Dr. Gubitz.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Good, it worked. So thanks for bringing up this point, Lynn. I think that's a really important one. And I just wanted to remind everybody that all ALS helps us operationalize the goals of the Accelerated Medicines Partnership in ALS. And the main goal of this program is to accelerate drug development in ALS. And part of that is through efforts to develop and optimize biomarkers as well as clinical outcome assessments. So we have a working group that is focusing on biomarkers, and this working group is meeting every month, and we are on a sort of, we have really good momentum. And right now we are planning biomarker studies that are going to be launched before the longitudinal biosamples are going to be available from all ALS. But we actually had a meeting, I think 2 weeks ago, and we are presenting to the Accelerated Medicines Partnership ALS Steering Committee tomorrow, where we're going to present a plan for a targeted proteomic study using existing biospecimens that are available in the community. But then we are also starting our conversation about the studies we want to conduct with all ALS samples. And of course, we hope that these samples will be available in sufficient quantity in about a year from now. And it's very likely that we're going to do similar sort of larger scale proteomic studies that we're now doing in a pilot study with existing biospecimens. We are probably also going to look at specific analytes. But I should say that for this biomarker working group, we have participation from a number of pharmaceutical companies and also a number of nonprofit organizations. We have people with lived experience, and we are always sort of reminded that, we need to work fast, that we need to have milestones and deadlines, that we need to know by when we have accomplished specific studies, and we are working very actively on that. And actually tomorrow we are going to present a plan for the steering committee for a vote to start our first pilot study. And I should say, there was also a question about digital health technologies and other things that we could do beyond speech through the all ALS longitudinal studies. And again, this is going to be discussed in the context of the Accelerated Medicines Partnership Program, because we need funding for these studies. And we are fundraising through the partnership. And certainly, there's interest in looking at gross motor function, so similar to what some other studies are already piloting, like ALS TDI. We want to build on their learnings, perhaps also pulmonary assessments. But these conversations are ongoing right now. We need to make sure that we can pay for them. Speech is currently funded already by NIH. And then we hope to sort of move forward as fast as we can, because now we have started the enrollment with all ALS already, and it's going sort of really well. So we don't want to miss the boat. I think that's all I have to add, but just as a reminder, all ALS and the Accelerated Medicines Partnership in ALS, they're all sort of working together. It's a synergistic program, and different aspects are being spearheaded by different working groups. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Gubitz.
Thanks a lot, Emily. That was perfect and very informative. And I completely agree. It's as we ramp up enrollment in all ALS, it becomes the perfect avenue to facilitate some of the other sort of questions that need to be answered,
Right.
and the technologies that would be utilized to answer them, to sort of roll them right into all ALS.
Perfect. All right. Following up with questions here. Outside of PROs and digital assessments, what detailed clinical information is currently being collected?
I'm sorry,
So,
I've been coughing.
so outside of PROs and
Oh,
digital assessments, what detailed clinical information is currently being collected?
clinical information, yeah. So obviously the very standard approaches of ALS, FRS, respiratory measures, muscle measures, muscle strength measures. So those are all being collected. Patient history. There'll be whole genome sequencing being performed, but again, that's not clinical information. There'll be other information and questionnaires that are collected using the NeuroPro approach, which will include various environmental factors and other measures, information that could be important as we move forward in sort of larger epidemiological types of studies. But most of the clinical information are sort of very standard clinical information that's been gathered over time in the ALS field.
Thank you. We have Allison here. So Allison said she is happy to help set up a patient advisory board. So I think if you take that back to James, to Dr. Berry, and
Yeah.
you guys decide to move forward with that, you can count on Allison to help out with that effort. Thanks,
Thank you,
Allison.
Allison.
Let's see, a question here from Lauren Webb. What type of support are you receiving from the NIH to help craft community engagement plans? It would be beneficial for the ALS organizations and people with lived experience to learn more about engagement strategies for clinical research. This might be a great quarterly webinar.
Oh, that's a great idea. Yeah, community engagement plans are, challenging. I don't think we've done that really well in this in ALS in the past. At least I haven't developed really great community engagement plans. We've been looking and interacting with those in other fields that have a history of really working with communities and engaging with communities in order to get messages out and to help enrollment into clinical research studies. And so really, we've gathered information for other fields. But again, now we're also trying to enroll in people with experience from other fields that will really accelerate this process for all ALS. I like the quarterly webinar. I don't think we're quite there yet. Might be something for the spring as we generate engagement plans and then reaching out to individuals and other groups to gather more insight to modify that plan to make it optimal as we move forward.
Thank you. Let's see here. Are you collecting CSF from the normal population?
Oh, what that is an option. So we're hopeful that some of the healthy control population will opt into providing longitudinal CSF.
And last question before we hop on to the hands raised. I think I saw where, this is from Lori, I think I saw where the prevent participants need a much higher percentage to provide CSF than the controls or symptomatic participants. Is that because you can learn a lot more from people with the gene in the stage before symptoms have started by studying the CSF?
Well, we're really hoping to learn a lot. And I think CSF from the asymptomatics is really critical to help identify mechanisms of sort of conversion to a symptomatic stage. Really, the idea of having more of those in the prevent providing CSF is that there's a higher proportion of people just in that program that will provide CSF as part of the study itself. And so we think we'll have a much higher percentage within the prevent study that do provide CSF versus the symptomatics or the healthy controls.
Thank you. And final question here. If you are a potential C9 carrier, do you have to know your genetic status to enroll in all ALS, or is it like all FTD where you can participate and choose not to know your status?
That is correct. You do not need to know. You don't have to know. We have a sub-study that those that are interested in knowing can learn, but no, it's not a requirement that you know it all.
Thank you. Now on to those raised hands. Thank you all for leaving your hands raised for so long. Let's see here. Patrick Dolan, we give you the microphone for a second. Go ahead. Patrick, you're on mute. I'm not sure if you're speaking. All right, we can come back to Patrick. Let's see here. Deb, see your hand is raised as well. Okay, we'll come back to Deb. Lane. Lane, I see your hand is raised.
You hear
Lane.
me now?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Hey, Lane, how are you?
To say that's
Question for you, Bob. You have all the leading ALS organizations at this meeting right now. What can they be doing in the interim before an outreach manager reaches out to them to start promoting all ALS? They're very valuable, and we should be using these organizations right now. What could they be doing?
Yeah, we do have materials that are patient facing that have central IRB approval that we can provide. They can provide out to people, and we can get those materials to them. Obviously, we have our own contact informations and email addresses, so we can definitely work with other organizations to help get the word out. Because like you said, Lane, I think it's, we should be doing it sooner rather than later, and pushing the envelope as forward as quickly as possible.
Should do it now.
Yes, I agree.
Start right away.
Thank you, Lane. Yes, I agree.
Thank you, Bob.
I might reach out to you, Lane, for help.
That's okay. I'm willing to help, whatever it takes.
Thank you, Lane. Let me give one more chance to Deb. Well, I see Deb put her hand up, but just making sure, Deb, that you don't have any additional questions or comments. Okay, and Lynn is letting us know that Pat needs a little more time for his question to come through for speech synthesis. So we can do that in a minute or two. But in the meantime, Bob, I think as far as those patient-facing materials as well, the ones that are IRB approved, you can also we can also be a channel to help get those out to the MPO, since a lot of them are joining these calls on a monthly basis. So whatever we can do to help amplify those materials in the messaging, happy to do so. But we can chat about that offline.
Okay, perfect.
Patrick, no question, thanks. Okay, so I think we are let me check the Q&A box one more time. All right, I think we are all set with the questions and the raised hands. Dr. Bowser, any final words, message before we wrap up here today?
No, I mean, I think what you've heard, we have is a very ambitious process, and as Lane says, you have to move quickly and full steam ahead. So, we're obviously onboarding some additional personnel to really help us move forward quicker, and definitely want to work with our both our patient patients with lived experience, and also the number of other organizations in the ALS community to get the word out to really help enrollment. And you know, I think fully remote participation again will be starting within the next couple of weeks. We have to beta test the system to make sure it will work effectively. And so once we do that, then it'll be, you know, full steam ahead as we enroll into all ALS. And so it's really exciting times right now. So I greatly appreciate all the comments, questions, and look forward to working with everyone here to really implement the full ALS, all ALS program.
Thank you. Well said. So thanks to all our attendees. Thank you again for the very productive and fruitful discussion. Thank you for your questions. Thanks to Dr. Gubitz for chiming in. And of course, thanks to Dr. Bob Bowser for taking the time and joining us for this very important update. And we look forward to have you and perhaps Dr. Berry join us again in the coming months to check in again on how everything is going. But that'll be it for today. The video recording of this will be up hopefully in the coming days. And thanks again.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye, everyone. Have a good day.